In the bustling and shadowy city of Raven Ridge, the stage is set for a crime that will alter the lives of 3 individuals forever. The mastermind behind it all is Mark Sullivan, a former military veteran with a dark past. Once a loyal soldier, Mark became disillusioned with the corruption and greed he saw during his time in service. Now, he has turned his highly strategic mind toward something else, orchestrating a multi-million-dollar bank heist. For him, the money is secondary. This is about redemption, a final score to settle with the society that left him broken. Mark isn't planning to do this alone. He recruits 2 skilled individuals who, like him, have their own reasons for needing an out. First is Emily Turner, a brilliant but troubled hacker. In her early 20s, Emily became involved with the wrong crowd, using her talents to breach systems for underground crime syndicates. Her criminal record is long, but she's motivated by more than just money. Emily has spent years running from her past, haunted by a mistake that left her estranged from her family. This heist, for her, is a chance to start over, to wipe the slate clean. But her moral compass is shaky, and trust doesn't come easily to her. The second recruit is Alex Wright, Mark's old friend from their time in the military. Unlike Mark, Alex has struggled to find steady footing in civilian life. With bills piling up and a family to support, he feels like he's drowning. When Mark approaches him with the offer to be part of the heist, Alex reluctantly agrees. Though he's uncomfortable with the idea of crossing the line into crime, the promise of a financial windfall and loyalty to his old friend push him to join. Alex's role is critical. As a security contractor for a major firm, he has inside knowledge of the bank's systems and access protocols. He is their key to getting in without raising alarms, at least, that's the plan. Mark meticulously plans every detail of the heist, using his military training to account for every possible scenario. He studies the blueprints of the bank for weeks, analyzing security patterns and calculating the exact timing required for the operation. Emily works tirelessly on cracking the bank's digital infrastructure, focusing on disabling the alarm systems, cameras, and security locks remotely. Meanwhile, Alex plays his role by providing crucial insider information, all while battling his own doubts about the job. On the day of the heist, the tension is palpable. Each member of the team knows that any slip-up could land them in prison or worse. Mark, calm and collected, walks into the Raven Ridge First National Bank during peak hours, blending in with the bustling customers. He heads straight for the manager's office, claiming to have a scheduled meeting. Meanwhile, Emily sits in a nondescript van parked a few blocks away, surrounded by a mess of laptops, screens, and wires. Her fingers move quickly across the keyboard as she takes control of the bank's security systems. The alarms are disarmed, the cameras are looped, and the vault locks are overridden, at least for now. Alex is already inside, dressed as one of the bank's security staff. His heart races as he watches Mark make his way to the vault. Everything seems to be going according to plan. Mark gives the signal to Emily, and she unlocks the final vault door remotely. With the money within reach, Mark and Alex move quickly, packing bags full of cash. It feels surreal to Alex. He's crossing a line he can never return from. But just as they begin their exit, something goes wrong. An alarm blares, one that Emily had missed. It's a silent backup alarm, designed to go off if the primary system is tampered with. The heist, which had been flawlessly executed until this moment, is now on the verge of collapsing. Mark remains composed, quickly signaling to Alex and Emily to stick to the backup plan. They rush out of the bank before the police arrive, but the tension is palpable. As they exit through a side door, the trio blends into the city streets, disappearing into the chaos of the afternoon. Emily's heart races as she drives the van through narrow alleys, avoiding main roads to throw off any potential pursuers. Mark sits in the back, already calculating their next move, while Alex, still dressed in his security uniform, struggles to keep his nerves in check. The police arrive at the bank moments too late, but the heist crew knows they've only just begun the real challenge, escaping and surviving the aftermath. The silent alarm has set things in motion they hadn't anticipated. Now they must deal with not only the law, but the suspicion that one of them might have made a mistake, or worse, set them up. With millions of dollars in cash and their freedom on the line, the trio is forced to confront the possibility that they're not just running from the police, but from someone even more dangerous lurking in the shadows. The echo of sirens fades as Mark, Emily, and Alex make their way to a remote safe house hidden in the industrial outskirts of Raven Ridge. It's an old, run-down warehouse, long abandoned and forgotten, now serving as their temporary hideout. Inside, the air is thick with tension. They've narrowly escaped the police, but Mark can't shake the gnawing feeling that something went wrong, not by chance, but by design. As the adrenaline of the heist wears off, the trio begins to unravel. Emily, usually sharp and confident, appears distant and on edge. She sits quietly in front of her laptop, typing away furiously as if trying to fix some unseen problem. Her sudden secrecy raises red flags for Mark, whose years in the military have taught him to trust his instincts. He paces the room, replaying the events in his mind, wondering how the silent alarm was triggered. Alex, meanwhile, is visibly shaken. This was supposed to be a clean job, but now they're fugitives, and the consequences of their actions are sinking in. Hours pass, and the atmosphere becomes suffocating. Mark, his patience wearing thin, finally confronts Emily. "You missed something. The alarm, it shouldn't have gone off. Did you mess up, or was it deliberate?" His voice is calm, but his words are like daggers. Emily's eyes flash with anger as she slams her laptop shut. "I didn't miss anything," she snaps. "I had everything under control. Maybe it was something you or Alex did on the ground." The accusation hangs heavy in the air. Alex, sitting quietly in the corner, looks up, startled. "Hey, I did my part. I got you in and out, didn't I?" "If anyone's at fault, it's her," he says, pointing at Emily. "You're the one who was supposed to handle the alarms." The tension between the three of them intensifies as paranoia starts to creep in. Trust, the very foundation of their plan, is quickly eroding. Mark, ever the strategist, knows that suspicion and fear can tear a team apart faster than any external threat. He tries to mediate, but deep down, he can't shake the feeling that there's more going on than meets the eye. His instincts tell him that Emily might be hiding something that could endanger all of them. He's worked with people like her before, brilliant but unpredictable, with motivations that don't always align with the team's. As the argument escalates, a new player enters the stage, Detective Ryan Mitchell, a seasoned investigator with a relentless drive. Mitchell isn't just any detective, he has a personal vendetta against Mark. Years ago, when Mark was still in the military, a mission went sideways, and Mitchell's younger brother, who served alongside Mark, didn't make it back. Mitchell holds Mark responsible for his brother's death, and ever since, he's been waiting for the moment to bring him down. Mitchell has been following Mark's movements for months, convinced that his old adversary was up to something. The bank heist is the break he's been waiting for. When the silent alarm went off, Mitchell was one of the first officers on the scene, and now he's hot on their trail. But this isn't just about justice, it's personal for Mitchell. He wants more than to arrest Mark, he wants to see him suffer. At the warehouse, Mark receives word from one of his contacts that someone within the police department is hunting them down with a singular focus. He immediately suspects that it's Mitchell. This complicates things further. Mark knows that Mitchell won't stop until he's caught them, and worse, he'll play dirty if he has to. The pressure begins to mount. Inside the safe house, the group's fragile unity continues to fracture. Mark watches as Emily isolates herself, constantly on her laptop, communicating with people Mark doesn't know. His mind races with possibilities. Could Emily be working with someone else? Has she made a deal with a rival criminal organization to turn them in for a bigger payout? Every passing hour deepens his suspicion. Meanwhile, Alex grows increasingly paranoid. He wasn't prepared for this level of danger, and now he feels trapped. His thoughts are clouded with regret, and the burden of his involvement in the heist weighs heavily on him. He begins to second-guess Mark's leadership. Alex's loyalty to Mark is put to the test as he wrestles with his own fear and self-preservation. In a moment of weakness, Alex considers turning himself in, believing that cooperating with the authorities might be his only way out. As the group argues over their next steps, Mark receives confirmation that Mitchell is indeed the detective on their case. This revelation sends a shockwave through the group, especially Mark, who realizes that Mitchell's vendetta will drive him to use any means necessary to capture them. This is no ordinary police pursuit, it's personal. Mitchell's involvement adds another layer of danger, as he knows how Mark operates and won't be easily fooled. Emily, feeling cornered by Mark's constant accusations, starts to push back. She reveals that she's been communicating with a hacker network to help cover their tracks, but Mark doesn't trust her. Their once solid alliance begins to crumble as they realize that they might be fighting not only against the law, but also against each other. In the midst of this growing paranoia, a new question arises: could one of them have intentionally triggered the silent alarm? It's a possibility that none of them want to face, but it lingers like a shadow in the back of their minds. The thought that one of them could be a traitor sends their already fragile partnership into a downward spiral. As night falls, the safe house no longer feels like a sanctuary. It has become a pressure cooker, filled with doubt, fear, and the looming threat of betrayal. Outside, the city of Raven Ridge buzzes with police activity, led by the unrelenting Detective Mitchell, who is getting closer by the minute. Inside, the trio is forced to confront not only their enemies, but also the secrets they've been keeping from each other. In this deadly game of cat and mouse, survival depends on trust, a resource that is quickly running out. The weight of suspicion hangs heavy in the air as Mark, Emily, and Alex remain holed up in the dim, claustrophobic safe house. The group is teetering on the edge, with trust between them rapidly deteriorating. They know they are being hunted, but the question now is by whom? The relentless detective Ryan Mitchell, or someone within their own circle? Mark, normally the composed and calculating leader, finds himself slipping into paranoia. His mind races through the events of the heist and the hours that followed. He replays every detail, every look, every word exchanged between his team members. Something isn't adding up. He can't shake the feeling that someone inside the group set them up, and the most likely target of his suspicion is Emily. Emily, for her part, remains guarded. She spends most of her time isolated in the corner, tapping away at her laptop, her face illuminated by the cold, blue glow of the screen. She's working on covering their tracks, but to Mark, it feels like she's hiding something, perhaps even planning her own escape. He begins digging deeper into her past, which only intensifies his mistrust. Through his own network of contacts, Mark discovers that Emily once had ties to a powerful criminal organization that rivaled his own in the underworld. The more he uncovers, the more Mark begins to believe that Emily's involvement in the heist might have been orchestrated from the start. Perhaps she had been sent by this rival group to infiltrate his operation, steal the money, and then disappear, leaving him to take the fall. Confronting her directly only leads to more evasive answers and heightened tension between them. Emily doesn't deny her past connections, but she insists that they have no bearing on their current situation. She claims she left that life behind long ago and has no interest in anything but her own survival. Still, her explanations do little to ease Mark's growing sense of betrayal. Every hour they spend hiding in the safe house, the walls seem to close in tighter, and Mark's suspicions deepen. Meanwhile, Alex's own internal conflict reaches a boiling point. While Mark focuses on Emily, Alex is battling his own demons. The pressure of their situation, combined with his guilt and fear, is pushing him toward a breaking point. Mark doesn't know it yet, but Alex has been in contact with Detective Mitchell for weeks, long before the heist took place. Unbeknownst to the others, Alex had struck a deal with Mitchell. In exchange for immunity and a reduced sentence, he would feed the detective information about Mark's operation. Alex hadn't intended for things to go this far. His original plan was to simply give Mitchell enough intel to take Mark down without getting too involved himself. But once the heist was set in motion, things spiraled out of his control. The silent alarm that had triggered the police response? That wasn't an accident, it was part of the deal. Alex had given Mitchell the inside information to set a trap, hoping to walk away clean with both the money and his freedom. Now, trapped in the safe house with Mark and Emily, Alex is suffocating under the weight of his betrayal. He knows it's only a matter of time before Mark figures out the truth, and when he does, there will be no escape. He begins to act more erratically, distancing himself from the group and growing increasingly paranoid. His fear of being discovered is compounded by the fact that Mitchell has gone silent. The detective had promised protection, but now Alex is starting to feel like he's been left out to dry. As the pressure mounts, Mark starts noticing Alex's odd behavior. Alex, who had always been Mark's most trusted friend and ally, now seems jittery and distant. Mark confronts him, questioning his loyalty. At first, Alex denies everything, but under the weight of Mark's accusations, he begins to crack. Though he doesn't fully confess, his nervous responses and contradictory statements make it clear that something is wrong. Simultaneously, Detective Mitchell is closing in. Unlike the trio, Mitchell thrives under pressure. He has been watching their every move, waiting for the right moment to strike. With a personal vendetta driving him, he's willing to bend the rules to get what he wants: justice for his brother's death, and revenge on Mark. But he's not just hunting criminals, he's playing a psychological game, using every trick he knows to push them closer to the edge. His plan is to create so much mistrust within the group that they will turn on each other. Mitchell's strategy begins to work. As Mark's suspicions of Alex grow, Emily watches the two men fall apart. She knows something is wrong between them, but she's focused on her own survival. She's not about to let herself be dragged down by their crumbling alliance. While Mark and Alex are distracted, she starts making plans for her own escape. She hacks into traffic cameras, local police networks, and city surveillance, carefully mapping out a route that will allow her to slip away unnoticed once the opportunity arises. But as much as Emily wants to leave, she can't quite bring herself to abandon Mark, not yet. Part of her still believes that if she plays her cards right, she can walk away from this with both her freedom and a portion of the stolen money. She approaches Mark with a proposition: they need to abandon the safe house and disappear before Mitchell closes in. They'll split the money and go their separate ways. Mark, torn between his mistrust of Emily and his need for an ally, reluctantly agrees. However, the situation escalates when Mark finally uncovers the full extent of Alex's betrayal. Through a combination of intercepted messages and Alex's increasingly erratic behavior, Mark pieces together the truth: Alex has been feeding information to Mitchell all along. The revelation is devastating. Mark, who had considered Alex a brother, feels the sting of betrayal more deeply than he could have imagined. His anger boils over. Mark confronts Alex in a furious showdown. Alex, realizing that his secret is out, pleads for mercy, claiming that he had no choice. But Mark, now fueled by both betrayal and fear for his own survival, is beyond reason. Their argument quickly turns physical, and it becomes clear that one of them isn't going to walk away from this unscathed. As tensions explode, Emily watches from the sidelines, calculating her next move. With Mark and Alex at each other's throats, she knows the time to act is now. But as the situation spirals out of control, the line between ally and enemy blurs, and she must decide whether to make a run for it or to take a dangerous gamble and stay for one final confrontation with Mitchell and the crumbling remnants of their once strong team. The safe house is in chaos. Mark and Alex's fight escalates to a brutal climax, years of friendship shattered by betrayal. Alex, now desperate and cornered, pulls a gun on Mark, his hands trembling. "I didn't want it to end like this," he pleads, his voice shaking. But Mark, eyes cold with fury, moves without hesitation. In a swift, decisive motion, he disarms Alex and strikes him down. Alex falls, clutching his side, wounded but alive. Mark, filled with a bitter sense of justice, looms over his fallen friend but spares his life, a final act of mercy for a man who once stood by him. As Alex lies bleeding, Emily knows her time to escape is now. She seizes the moment, grabbing a duffel bag stuffed with cash and heading for the exit. But just as she reaches the door, it bursts open. Detective Mitchell steps into the room, gun drawn, his eyes locked on Mark. "This is the end of the line, Sullivan," he growls, his voice filled with both satisfaction and long-held resentment. For Mitchell, this is more than just an arrest, it's the culmination of years of hunting the man he blames for his brother's death. The room is tense, the air thick with unspoken history between Mitchell and Mark. Emily, frozen near the door, watches the confrontation unfold. She knows that making a run for it now could cost her her life, but staying could mean getting caught in the crossfire. Her instincts scream at her to flee, but something in Mitchell's intense gaze holds her in place. Mark, exhausted and battered, faces Mitchell with steely resolve. "You think this will bring him back?" Mark asks, his voice low, referring to Mitchell's brother. Mitchell's face twists with anger. "No," he snaps. "But it will give me peace." The tension mounts, and for a moment, it seems like one of them is going to pull the trigger. But before either can act, Emily makes her move. In a daring leap of faith, she hurls herself out the door, disappearing into the night with the money. The distraction breaks the standoff for a split second, long enough for Mark to dive for cover as Mitchell fires a shot. The bullet misses, ricocheting off the wall, and Mark scrambles to escape through a back exit, leaving Alex behind and Mitchell in pursuit. Outside, the night is dark and the city of Raven Ridge sprawls ahead. Emily blends into the shadows, vanishing into the maze of streets with her newfound fortune. Mark, wounded but still moving, slips into the alleys, trying to evade Mitchell, who is hot on his trail. As dawn breaks, the aftermath of the heist leaves its mark. Alex, barely clinging to life, is found by the authorities and taken into custody. Emily, now a ghost, disappears completely, her fate uncertain, but with the stolen millions in her possession. And Mark, the man who orchestrated it all, continues to evade capture, an outlaw on the run, hunted by the man whose vengeance will never be quenched. Detective Mitchell stands in the empty streets, watching as Mark slips away into the city's vast underworld, knowing that this isn't over. For now, the chase continues, with revenge and redemption still hanging in the balance.